Are you tired of playing by the rules? Tired of doing what you're supposed to when all you really want to do is burn the damn rule book and start fresh? I get it. I've done it more than once. And let me tell you, freedom tastes better than approval ever could. Welcome to Her Gypsy Rebel, the podcast for those who crave more creativity, more space, more of your own damn life on your own terms. I am Jacqueline Van Bierk, aka Pink Star, a musician, artist, traveler, and professional rule breaker, bringing you real, unfiltered conversations about reinvention, confidence, and making space for what actually matters. So grab a coffee, a tea, something a little stronger, because this is where the rebellion begins. Welcome to Her Gypsy Rebel podcast. My name is Jacqueline Van Bierk, also known as Pink Star, and I'm bringing this podcast back. It was called The Stories That Bind Us, but I figured Her Gypsy Rebel just fits so much better. And really, this podcast is about people who live the not so conventional life. Maybe you're tired of playing by the rules, doing what you're supposed to do, when really all you want to do is burn down that damn rule book and start fresh. I get it. I've done it several times, more than once. And let me tell you, freedom never tasted better, because when you don't need approval, you get a chance to really become who you authentically are, who you truly are, without having to hide. And it's funny, when I started recording this podcast, I was like, all right, it's going to be my first episode, kind of reintroducing myself. And I wanted to write myself a script so bad. And then I realized, why do I need to write a script? Because I've lived it. Everything I want to share right now today is what I've lived. So there's no need to script anything other than possibly making sure I don't totally go off the deep end and get caught up in one story and start here and then end up over there. But I truly believe that in a real conversation, even when we sometimes deviate completely from where we started, we're always exactly where we're meant to be, right? So my name is Jacqueline Van Bierk. As I mentioned, I grew up in East Germany, communist country. I escaped East Germany before the Berlin Wall came down. I was actually part of the revolution that helped bring the Berlin Wall down, because when you suppress people for a long time and lie to people for a long time, eventually the truth comes out. Eventually people wake up to the reality of my reality was kind of living in a prison where I couldn't travel, I couldn't think for myself, I couldn't speak my truth. And that, even though I was super young, I questioned that, and that was not welcomed at all. In fact, as growing up in East Germany, if you wanted to leave East Germany, you were considered a traitor, and you could either try and risk your life, which I did, but then there were people that risked their life even more, trying to jump over the Berlin Wall. I mean, I could do a whole episode about that. It's really crazy, that everyone who escaped East Germany at one point or another, the only reason they did that, I did that, to get my freedom. That's all I wanted. That's all we wanted, but we were not allowed to have that. So we had to fight for it. And that is part of my podcast, and the subject of the podcast, where people just do not follow the rules. They live the not so conventional life, the life that we've been taught not to live. Like, we've been taught to go to school, go to college, get a job, follow the rules, do the job until you can't do it anymore, and then you retire, and what? So instead, I went my route. I grew up in East Germany. Like I said, my parents they didn't have the best relationship. There was a lot of fighting going on. There was a lot of partying going on, a lot of alcohol, a lot of abuse. I witnessed it. And looking back, I was just, sometimes I shake my head thinking, man, did my parents never consider that I'm there? But when you grow up I don't know, for me, I realized that, people do the best with what they've got and what they know and what they've been taught. And I think that my parents, a lot of times when that happened, when those bad fights happened, and my dad was about to kill my mom, and I wasn't sure what to do. I, they were drunk. They were not in the right state of mind. And so I am now forgiving them. Looking back, I was a really happy kid, which is kind of crazy because it never felt good. We lived in an apartment building at first, so everybody knew when there was something happening in my household because everybody could hear every word, which was pretty embarrassing. But yeah, for some reason, I always managed to just ignore it, to not even pay attention to it. Did it affect me emotionally deep down? Yes, it did. But on the surface, I was always the happy kid, and when I had time to myself, which I had a lot because I'm an only child, my dad was a musician. He had a 9-to-5 job as an engineer, as a builder engineer. And so, but on the weekends, he would play music with his band. And my mom worked in a restaurant business, so she was pretty much always working, especially holidays. So my dad would play music during the holidays, and then my mom would be working. So I had a lot of free time, which I sometimes really did not appreciate and enjoy. I felt lonely a lot, but I always managed to keep myself busy. So one of the things I would always do is burn stuff. We had an oven, and I would just throw pieces of paper in and whatever I could find, really. And visualize and think like, oh my God, I just want to see the big wide world. I want to be free, I want to explore the world. My town was small. We were near the woods. Beautiful, actually, beautiful town. But like when you're a kid, you want more. I wanted more. And a lot of my friends actually did not want what I wanted. But I always wanted to be a performer, an entertainer. I loved music from the beginning because my dad always played music. He played the saxophone. I would sneak into the rehearsals and like sit there and watch them. And then when they would take a break, I would sneak on stage and, take the mic and start singing and acting like I'm putting on a show. And I would always put on a show for my family. Yeah, even if they didn't like it. Whenever there was a gathering, I was like, showtime. I would dress up, my mom's clothes or my grandma's clothes, whatever. Like, a lot of little girls do that. No, I'm not sure. I always did that. So yeah, I feel that we all deal with trauma differently. Yeah, and I personally just never really. It's so weird to me now that I functioned so well and I did so good the way I did. Meaning, I didn't fall off the wagon. I didn't get into alcohol too much. I mean, yes, I was partying all the time, but I was never it was never a problem. I would get sick and my mom would laugh. She'd be like, there she goes again, drinking, mixing all her drinks and not feeling well. And then being sick the next day, all day and the day after. And promising myself that I would never do that again and do the exact same thing over and over again. And it took me a long time. I used to really enjoy partying. And partying, when I say partying, it's smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol because that's all we had. So when the time came and I escaped East Germany, which is funny because my then boyfriend and I, we would go to Hungary. And he introduced me. I was still really young and my parents allowed me to go with him. And I was blown away. I just loved it so much. And it reminded me so much of what West Germany must look like. It was very colorful. There was a lot of options for clothing. In East Germany, everything, I always describe it as moving from a world of black and white into a world of color. In East Germany, we didn't have all these choices and options. People would fight over bananas. You had to know someone to get something. If our Kaufhaus, our boutique in town had something new, they would tell my mom about it because my mom ran the restaurant and she helped people get good tables and, get a party going, get them a deal on their party, business party, private parties, family gatherings. So one hand washes the other kind of thing. So my mom would get first dibs on whatever would come. Oh, we have stonewashed jeans. If you want one, come by, And so in Hungary, it was just so beautiful. So I spent all my money on clothing. We ate out of tubes. We didn't, it was also super expensive for us from East Germany if you would go to Hungary by the Balaton. I remember a hamburger was like 30 marks for us, which was quite a bit of money, while it was for the West German people, it was cheap as hell. So they would love to go there and just party, in Hungary, which is beautiful. But so that was my first experience of thinking, oh my God, I want more. This is not what our country looks like. And I don't understand why we can't travel. So the second time we went to Hungary, that's when people started to escape through the Austrian border. And then we managed to get a number of a person that they told us just pull up and, show them the address you're going, and then you should be able to go through the border. Well, we showed up at the border and the soldiers came down with their weapons, pointing at us, which was really scary. And we're just like, oh my God, yes, what's up? And they're like, where are you going? Oh, we got this address. We have friends over it. No, you don't. There's nobody living there. So I guess the people that we were supposed to meet, or not even meet, but just the address we had, they had already left. So they sent us back. I thought my life is over. My one chance for freedom was over. We went back home. I was crying. I was like, oh my God, now I'm going to be stuck. And then we watched on television people just escaping through through the embassy in Prague. And so my then boyfriend's dad said, guys, you are young. Pack your stuff. Tonight, I'm going to drop you. Was it maybe the next night? I don't remember. But pack a few things of clothing. Don't bring a lot of stuff. I'm going to drive you to Berlin. You're going to take the train to Prague. And you're going to jump over that fence. And you get in the embassy so that you can escape. Wow. I was like, no way. I'm game. So I told my parents. My dad freaked out. He was like, no, you can't do that. My mom, she didn't even know what to say. But I said, I have to do it. I'm sorry. I need to go. Mind you, I was not sure if I ever going to see my parents again, if I even make it, if I might get shot, if I might get arrested. We did not know what's going to happen. All I knew is I want to escape. And it's funny that I've had this thought in my head that would be like a big band playing in our town, which was like unusual because our town was small, but we had a theater, and sometimes bigger East German bands would come through, or artists would come through playing at the theater. And I would always think, oh my God, how can I sneak into that car? Like oh God, yeah. So it's always been, when we would travel somewhere, I would see the big fences, the iron fences, and with the pointy, dangerous freaking, what do you call them? The little blades, metal blades. And I'd always think about, how can I escape? How can I escape? So opportunity came. He drove us to Berlin. I told my parents. It was heartbreaking for both of us. And we got to Berlin, took a train to Prague, which was crazy because they came and checked all of our stuff, all of our bags. I think they knew, they knew what was going on, asking where we going. And you didn't want to talk to anyone, because you didn't know if the person next to you, if they just asking you to get some information and then they're just going to arrest you or trick you and kill you, whatever. So people would just be like, yeah, so where are you going? Oh, we're just going to see some friends. And anyway, so the guys, I think it was even the Stasi, I'm not sure, but whoever came to like they checked everything, my whole luggage. They took all my clothes out. It was so degrading. And we got to Prague and got out. It was really weird because we were all just standing there thinking, okay, like these people look like they might be wanting to go where we go, but we can't really tell them because they could be Stasi. You couldn't trust anyone, right? So then we decided, okay, let's just get a cab. Got into the cab and like East German Embassy, West German Embassy. I was going to say not East German, West German Embassy. And so they drove us there. And it's so funny. I have video footage of last year. I went for the first time. I revisited Prague since then, which was like in 1989. And I haven't been back to Prague. And it hit me while I was in Prague. I didn't even think about it when we booked the trip. But I went back and I kept saying, whenever I tell people the story, I kept saying that the cab dropped us off at a park, and they said, go straight through the park, and then you'll see the embassy. You're going to hit the embassy. That's the big fence and all that kind of stuff. And we were so scared because it seemed shady. I was like, why would he drop us off in front of a park and we have to go through a dark park? It was like nighttime, And so I remember like being so scared because there were people walking in suits, and it just felt so eerie. And every time somebody would just like turn around, we'd be like, oh my God, like we're getting arrested. They're going to shoot us, whatever. Maybe somebody's already pointing a gun. And then we kept on walking. And then I heard people, over here, over here, over here. And there it was, this big fence. And people standing in front of the fence, waiting for us to just be, ship us over, like to help us to get over through it. I mean, guys, when I tell you that feeling, the minute they're like, yeah, get over here, get over here. So I stepped on this guy's hand and jumped over. Someone else was helping us. There were other people. Everybody was helping so much. And then the other people on the other side were like, yay. And then I cheered. We all cheered. I cried. I was like, oh my God, And there we were at the embassy in Prague. And it took 4 days of madness. I mean, people just kept coming, and the embassy is not that big. The whole backyard there that we stayed at, they had like camps set up, tents set up. And I mean, the tents were meant for like, I think 50 people, and there were like 100 people in a tent, or like 25, and 50 people. And it was just crazy. And people were fighting over Coca-Cola. People were fighting over food. I mean, there were families that just like took their kids and their stroller and just left, a little bit of food. People left everything to escape. People that had established homes, jobs, whatever, they left everything. So there was a lot of kids, a lot of people just in general, you couldn't, to go to the bathroom, you had to wait 3 hours. People were just starting to go anywhere. They had to go. And then finally the chancellor came, and Genscher, and he set us free. And that moment in my life was probably the biggest change, the boldest thing I've done. And when he told us, you are free to go, that excitement, that moment is, it's crazy. It's crazy. So we all got assigned a train. He was like, just everybody stay calm. Do not panic. Don't go, just stay calm. Everybody who is here gets out. So you're safe, because we were still freaked out, It's amazing when you think about how a government, how a country can really try to shrink their people. When I say shrink their people, shrink their confidence, shrink their dreams, right? To make you really be so wary and scared of everything. So, but I was always, that's why Gypsy Rebel. I was like, screw this. I'm out. I'm going to find a way out. I knew that. I didn't know how, but I knew that I find a way out. So this opportunity came so unexpected, and it changed everything. And then we took the train. On the train ride, the Stasi came in. They took all our papers, they were not happy, which was kind of funny. And yeah, Jesus. When we arrived to West Germany, they gave us some money, 100 marks, I think, to start out. And then we had to decide where we wanted to live. So I decided I wanted to live in Hanover. It seemed the closest to my mom's town. I could have done Hamburg also. It's kind of the same, but I decided to Hanover, which is actually a little bit further than Hamburg. But I went into a store, just like a Walmart kind, not a Walmart, but like a Walgreens kind of store, a lot of cosmetics and stuff. And I was just like standing there and crying because I had never seen so many choices of nail polish. I was just blown away. I could not believe that. So that's why I said earlier, it really felt like stepping into a world of color, living in a world of gray. It was crazy, mind-blowing to me. And from there, I started up my new life. Most of us who had education, it didn't really it didn't matter because it was not really a credit. Like we didn't have the qualifications that they required in West Germany. So a lot of us went back to school. They offered us schooling and stuff like that. I went to business school. I also became a bartender. I just did all these things, these amazing things. I did a lot of modeling, really fun jobs that I never expected. I could have never done in my little hometown. So that was amazing. I met a friend of mine that in one of those rock clubs that I was DJing, I was bartending. I wish I was DJing. I was bartending, and I loved it. It was like a metal club, a rock club. I was more of a pop girl, and I already had a band. I already had a cover band before I left East Germany. I was very active dancing in a carnivals club, which I loved. I was a really active child, and I had like a lot of fun doing things that I always loved. And my parents are really supportive of that. And I was also singing. I sang in a cover band that we did actually really, really well. And I was still really young, and my dad was super jealous because we had to audition to be able to play in those bands, and we would get a grade, and then depending on your grade, you would get paid. So I was really close to my dad's band's grade, and he did not like that because they've played for a long time. And here we were, the youngsters, kicking ass, like everybody loved us. So anyway, so going to Hanover, I found another band. I found other projects. I would just sing, work with a music producer. I did a lot of little things here and there. And then I met my friend Sandy, who used to come to the club all the time, and we really clicked, so we had fun. We became really good friends, started doing some modeling gigs together, also dancing in clubs on the speakers, kind of go-go dancing. It was so fun. And she said, I want to go to New York. Do you want to come with me? And I was like, man, that sounds like a dream come true. Like, I always wanted to see the world and experience new cultures, new places. And New York is just something that sounds almost unreal because I've seen it in movies, but it just seems so cool. Like, is that even a real thing, And when you live in East Germany, you'll understand, because everything just feels like it's not even real, because you're just in this little world that they don't really want you to explore the bigger world. They try to censor you, like you're not allowed to watch West German TV, which most of us did anyway. But you see that because they didn't want us to see the vibrancy, the colors, the opportunities that other people had that we just didn't have. They were just trying to tell us that we are safe, that this is the best thing, we have life easy. And you know what? Yeah, it's an easy life. And there's still some people that will say, believe it or not, that have told me, oh my God, I was so much better back then. And I'm like, I bet, because you didn't have to think for yourself. You didn't have to do anything. You just went, did your job like a little robot, got your pay. You had enough to live comfortably. You didn't have a lot of fruits or a lot of choices for clothing, but who needs all that, right? We're all the same. It was just insane. So, but they taught you that, and a lot of people bought into it. They felt safe. They felt like that's all I needed. And you know what? Some people don't. I can't relate to it. But there are people out in the world who just really don't like to travel. Their dream is not to go different places, travel the world, explore. They just love being in their little town, living their everyday life. And if that's fulfilling to you, God bless you. I just always had that rebel gypsy blood in me that I needed more, and I feel so uncomfortable the minute I get comfortable. So it was a no-brainer for me to just say, yes, hell yes, let's go to New York. Step foot onto New York ground, and let me tell you, I felt home. I was like, this is it. This is it. My English sucked. I didn't know much about New York other than steam coming from the ground, on the streets. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I kept thinking of gangsters and just cool shit, So I was in love. We explored. We did a lot of things. I was very much into music and Bon Jovi and, just like, just meeting these people. And we met a lot of people. And we just both knew. We were on the same page. She was like my sister from another mister, still is. And we decided, okay, we're going to go back home. but we're going to work our asses off for a year, and then we're going to go back and we're going to stay. And that's what I did. So yes, New York was my starting point in the US, and I loved every minute of it. And I ended up doing so many things. In the beginning, what did we do? We just lived in a hostel to start out with, which was also funny because I never thought that I could do that. But I lived in a hostel with Sandy. We had a room for like, I think the first 7 months, I was dancing. We were both dancers in gentlemen clubs, which is funny because most people like look down on that. I thought it was the most liberating thing because I could do whatever I wanted, and I made decent money. So that was amazing. Got to party everywhere, like every club back then in the 90s in New York, late 90s, was just freaking amazing. It was just so awesome. And got to meet a lot of people, some of my heroes. We can get more into that another time, but it was just also got, the limelight was a thing back then. And I got to experiment with a little bit of other things other than alcohol, which I also don't regret, because I think life is meant to be an experience, and to say you should not do this, you should not do that. Yes, we shouldn't do a lot of things, but you should also do what feels right at the moment, as long as you have control over it. And I know I'm not here to say drugs are great. They're not. But I'm saying that sometimes it's great to have an experience, as long as you are surrounded by people who can pull you back in. And of course, I was still dancing and I was partying for a minute. And it was really interesting because I was really partying for a good amount of time. Not even a year, probably not even, maybe half a year. But one day I was just in an after hour place, as always, and just looking around, thinking, wow, shit, what time is it? It's 11 o'clock. Oh my God, I have to cancel. Like I can't go dancing. I haven't slept. I'm totally, on shit, drunk, and, and a few lines. And so I canceled my gig for the day. And then I just kept looking around thinking, wow, who are all these losers here, And then it occurred to me, wait, you're here. You should be in bed. What are you doing here? You didn't come to America to be a party girl. You came to America to make music, to do your life's work, to do what you're passionate about, And so that was a big wake up moment for me, where I realized that, all right, I need to stop. And so I did. And all my friends left. All the friends I had were gone. They could not understand why I chose to not do drugs anymore. And cocaine was my favorite. And I never bought it. So I could never really smoke weed. That was like my one drug that I just, at the time, now I can smoke here and there, and it relaxes me. But back then I would get so paranoid. So yeah, it was just a wake up call. And I'm glad, I made that decision. And I'm pretty stubborn when it comes to that stuff. And I said, I'm done. I'm going to have a drink when I go out. That's fine. But I'm not going to have those drugs anymore, because it's just like a downward spiral. You do stupid things, and I've done so many stupid things that I don't regret any of them, because I got really lucky. And when I talk about lucky, sometimes going into a limousine that just pulls up in the middle of Manhattan, and me and Sandy jumping in, taking the invitation and going for a ride, it could have really gone south quickly. Having some people, strangers that met us on the street because we were always dressed so crazy, who would want to take pictures of us, and, went home with some of these people to like do a photo shoot. And then red flags went off. I never went by myself, so we never did that. So we were always there to protect each other, and we were smart enough to like not take the drinks that we were offered there and stuff like that, and then say, okay, time to go, which we did. But wow, what an adventure. It's been crazy. And then I met my new ex in New York, that he was actually the best thing that happened to me at the time, because he was pretty straight, he wasn't doing partying and stuff like that. And so I needed that. I needed someone who is the opposite of me to bring me down to earth and say, hey, just calm down. And that's when I started to really get into music and learning how to record. We met someone at the laundromat that was really good with computers, and I was going to a producer paying $1,000 per song to get my vision, on the record. But it was annoying because A, it was super expensive, and B, it was just every time I wanted to change something, I had to make an appointment, see when he has time, and it wasn't really working versus recording on our own. So the guy we met, Cedric is his name. He was like, yeah, guys, I can help you build your own computer and you can record your own, on your own. You don't have to spend the money on a producer, and you just have the freedom to do whatever you want to do when you want to do it. And that, that seemed just like the perfect thing for me to do. And so we did. And Otto's daughter was born shortly after, which is my band. We were very dark, gothic, industrial, ended up playing a bunch of places that we didn't even belong. Showing up in New York City with a whole lightning rig and like a little stage that they built for me, and a heavy as what we called a fridge that had all our effects in it, like to program our lights and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we had pyros. I mean, we had it all. We showed up like we were about to play Madison Square Garden. It was hilarious. And people would just be like, well, who the hell are these people? And I was all gothy. And what happened was I was so dark, and I was really into pop music all my life. So I didn't even understand what was happening, why I was doing what I was doing, but I was really dark. And I had this guy, Andy, who I met in the village, West Village. He was a clothing designer, and I saw his store, and I was like, oh my God, I love you. And he ended up making me costumes, corsets, like sexy as hell. And he was working with Marilyn Manson, even Nine Inch Nails. I'm like, oh my God, you are my designer. Freaking loved it. And, but people were they couldn't figure out who we were. So I think they were just sticking around because they were just like, what is this? Until we played one of those clubs, I think it was the Continental, and one guy, his name was Ted, and he came up and he said, you are the coolest thing ever. Like, you are so goth. And I'm like, what is goth? He's like, you don't know what goth is? I'm like, no, not really. He's like, you are goth. You are so dark, and your music, and you're so theatrical. And I'm like, oh. He's like, oh my God, you're the coolest goth ever because you're so goth, you don't even know what goth is. It was hilarious. So we ended up playing more places that were more tailored and geared towards our audience, which ended up being like the fetish scene, which is also hilarious. But looking back, of course, I was covered in blood. Of course, I was trashing the stage. It was all my childhood trauma that I finally got to express. And my mom would tell me, she would ask me, Jacqueline, why can't you just wear a pretty dress and pretty makeup? You're such a pretty girl. Why you dressed in blood and like the corsets, and it's just weird. I'm like, and my dad, rest in peace, he would always say, you're my daughter. Yeah, my band's name was Otto's daughter. And he said, you do whatever you want to do. I think you're crazy. You're so expressive, and you just do you. And I don't really like your music that much, but I appreciate it because, first of all, he played the saxophone. He knew how to read music. He never wrote music. And he was like, I don't know how you do it. You don't even know music, but you're creating music. You're writing your own songs. And that gets me emotional because... it's like sometimes you have to go through things and you eat it up, you're not letting it out, and then suddenly you're in this place where you get to bloom, where you get to express yourself, and you get to be your true, authentic self. And that, to me, looking back, that my dad was so accepting of that, my parents knew I was a stripper, I was like, yes, I make money stripping, and I fucking love it, I was never like a hoe, like I didn't take guys home and had sex with them or anything like that. And I always had my shit together, I wasn't like a drunk, like just on drugs. And many strippers, it's such a bullshit thing too. Like a lot of strippers were not on that. You know, a lot of them were moms that just needed to make a living and knew that that was the easiest way to do it. And they had the body, the personality to do it. And you know what? God bless everyone that did that. I made really good money. So when my dad accepted me like that, my mom has never been really appreciative of my art. You know, the first time she really was proud of me was when I walked the red carpet at the Grammys. Okay. I didn't win a Grammy, but you think, oh my God. So again, people just do the best they can with what they know. My mom always thought that me taking the route, doing the music thing was not the right decision because I never made much money from it. You know, I'm not famous. And I know she knows I have talent, but she could never grasp it. And so for getting that acceptance from my dad was amazing. And so, yeah, I just loved, it all made sense to me. And even though it didn't make sense because I was not really, a lot of artists have this whole, you know, they have it all in their head, how they want to do their show, what they want to look like. I didn't think of all that. I just did that. I just, when Lady Gaga did Poker Face and she was hanging there bloody, I was crying because I was like, that is me. That was me. That was me as an artist when I first started out with Artist Daughter. And I didn't give a shit if people liked it or not. You know what I mean? And I think that's why people liked it, because we were weird and our songs were really good. And they still are. But we were weird and we really didn't fit in. And I think was just like a mind-blowing thing for most bands to watch us on stage. And I know sometimes they would try to make fun of us or fun of me because I had a tutu on. I was really theatrical, stage blood. But then after the show, they had so much respect for me. They were like, oh, I'm not going to fuck with that girl. She's going to hit me with a mic. And I had that Elvis mic, you know. So yeah, I was like, you don't fuck with me. But I never had that attitude. I was just like, I'm a completely different person. If you hear me here and you ever see me on stage, this is two different people. And it's real. And for anyone out there, don't be ashamed or afraid of that. It's not a fake thing. It's just like when I'm here, I'm just being me. And for the longest time, I didn't even want to be this person. I didn't want anyone to see this person. I just wanted to see the person on stage. Because I loved her. She is fierce. She is fearless. She doesn't care. She is doing her thing. She's in her zone and she is just putting a spell on everyone or making them leave. But she was always her authentic self. And when I was off stage, I was thinking people will not gonna like me because I am not this crazy ass girl. I was just on stage. That's me on stage. That's me as an artist, as a musician. And I know this may not even make sense because when I'm on stage, yes, it's me. And this is me too. But there's no reason for me to right now go go crazy. But when I'm expressing myself through my music and with my outfits, which always to me was so important, you know, it was really important to me to have a certain image and to dress a certain way. And it was not something I tried to calculate or, you know, study like if people would like it or not. It was just something, an expression of who I was, who I wanted to be. And to get to do that, that's the beauty of being an artist, because you get to play. You get to just, the world is a playground and you get to play. You get to do whatever you want to do, right? And then labels come along and they try to tell you what you should not be doing. And that happened to us as well. And I tried so hard for a minute. I tried really hard when I was in New York. You know, nothing really major happened other than us playing amazing shows and connecting with a lot of people. But we hit a plateau. Then we moved to LA because people kept telling me, you got to go to LA. And I was thinking, what the hell am I going to do in LA? I hate LA. And I said that without even knowing, right? It's being judgmental because I heard so many posers, fake people, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, I don't want to go to LA. There's nothing for me there. They're like, no, your music, you're going to be blowing up. Like LA is the place for you to be. And it kept on coming up. Like people kept saying that to me, like, right? So I'm like, all right, fuck it. I'm going to go check it out. So we went, checked it out. And I was like, oh my God, I can see it. I can totally see it. So I went back to New York, told my band, whoever wants to come, join me, and whoever wants to stay behind, I completely understand, because there's no guarantees, right? I can't guarantee you a job. I can't guarantee you this band is going to blow up. All I can tell you is that I need to go. I'm hearing myself, my own voice now calling for it, and all the voices, all the messages, all the people have been telling me, to go. And I think it's important that you follow your intuition, that you not just listen to people because that's what they say, but that you see it as a sign. Maybe there's something there, And so that's what I did. And oh my God, what another mind-blowing chapter. We left everything. I decided to not dance anymore, which was actually kind of a hard decision because the money was good. But I knew that, okay, I can always keep dancing. First of all, I didn't want to run into people from the industry, which now who cares? But I didn't want to be that person. And then also I figured it's easy. I wanted to do something that is more challenging and put more effort and energy into my music, which we did. So we got an amazing studio and a house in Van Nuys that we turned our garage into a studio. The guys did the sound, soundproofing the whole garage, and it was just freaking amazing. I mean, we had a big ass backyard. We threw some amazing parties. It was just a great time. We played all over Sunset Strip. My friend Claudia, who was in the band Luna Click, she invited me and she helped me. She introduced me to a lot of people. And when we first got there, though, we didn't have a full band, so it was just Jim, Gadget, and myself. And so we played at the Rainbow Room upstairs and did a few acoustic shows there, which is freaking amazing. And again, you work with what you got, right? Because I didn't have a full band, but I knew I had to perform. I had to be out there for people to see me, acknowledge me, and for us to find new members. And then our guys ended up working at Guitar Center, so we got to meet Garrison, who sadly passed away a few years back. He was our member, and built a new lineup, and we started playing all over Sunset Strip, which was so fun. Then I got to work with some amazing producers, Brian Karlstrom, also with Chris from The Dreaming, who was in Stepping Westward. Get to meet so many amazing people. I also ended up finally going to networking events, which I never did. It never even occurred to me to go to events where other musicians and composers are. Long story short, I ended up meeting all kinds of amazing new people, more composers than bands. And I really loved the completely contrast of those people versus the rock scene, because the rock scene seemed super competitive. A lot of people, my theory is always like to just work together. And a lot of them were really in competition. And I didn't like that. There were only a few bands. Scum Love is one of them, who was always like, yes, let's put a show together, from start to end. All these lineups, all these bands, everybody's going to love it. They're going to come early. They're going to stay late because they want to see every band. And we're building a community. We're building a family. And that's how it should be. That's how scenes are built, right? So that was amazing. But then besides doing the band thing, we went on tour a few times. I booked a tour independently, just us, going all over the US, which is also, oh my God, looking back, what a great experience. It's hard and it's not what people think it is. And we didn't make much money at all. Actually, we lost money. However, the experience, I would do it all over. I would probably do it smarter, and I have a lot of advice on that if anyone is interested in that. However, as I met more composer people, and a friend of mine, Eric, he said, you are so talented. You always write music. You should write for Taxi. It's like a company that solicits music to supervisors for film and TV. And I was like, what? Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, I do like writing different styles that don't fit my band's music. And so I just write it for fun, He's like, well, you could submit them. So that was the beginning of that. And I started to compose music for film and TV. And I'm condensing all of this. There's so many details, but I'd be here like for 20 hours. And so that was that. And when we would be off tour, or even while we were on tour, I would sit at a cafe and compose a little bit of music for a few libraries that I started working with. One of them was Studio 51, who was submitting a lot of music to Oprah at the time. So I got my music actually played on the Oprah show Dr. Oz, a bunch of other shows. And to me, that was a whole new like opening of the possibilities as a musician. Because as a musician, if you just think of one way to make money, to monetize, it's not good, because you need many ways. Like, I started giving voice lessons, which I was so scared to do, because I've taken the entire time, almost while I was in New York, I took voice lessons. When I moved to LA, I took voice lessons. And then I started teaching, and that was one of the best moves I've also done. And it was also extremely scary. And why I say all of this is that, and that kind of brings it all back together, why I created this podcast. It's about not being afraid to start over, not being afraid to step into something that seems so exciting yet scary when you know it's right. And most of us, especially when you get older, you get a little bit more scared. You question, oh my God, what am I going to do? Where am I going to live? And if you really think about all your past experiences, how many times have you sweat a situation, stressed over something that in the end completely worked out, right? That was because the divine timing of the universe provided everything that was needed at the right time, and sometimes delays happen because we are not ready. And sometimes delays happen because it's not the right time for it. And it comes back to us not being ready, or just, the timing of something else not working out. So trust the process. And I'm going to stop this episode with how I ended up being where I am right now. And we can always get more into detail and share more stories. But I am now in Michigan, by the Great Lakes. It's actually super cold out right now. It's February still, 2025. And we've had a huge snowstorm like a few times, and I love it. It's annoying and it's beautiful at the same time. Annoying in the fact that the poor dogs, they're like sinking into the snow, and we had to like dig out spots for them to be able to go, and it's hilarious and cute, but poor guys. But it's fun at the same time. I love snow and I love the four seasons. The reason why I left Los Angeles is that at the time in 2019, my mom, I had told her many times that I'm going to spend some time, quality time with her. I'm going to come a little bit longer, and I'm going to bring my dog Balti. There he is. And she was like, oh my God, you're going to come for 3 months? I'm like, yes, but don't worry about it. It's not just going to be, I'm not going to be staying just like in your place. I'm going to be moving around, seeing some friends, maybe travel Europe a little bit. And it's just my boyfriend's coming home, so the dogs are barking. But what ended up happening is that my mom got sick, and she got cancer, and she had to get operated, like a big operation. A big surgery that ended up happening exactly a few days before I was coming. And so talking again about perfect timing, right? So I came with Bald, helped her heal back to health. It was pretty crazy. She had a track in her throat. She couldn't speak. She couldn't eat or drink on her own. So I had to help her. I ended up vacuuming her throat out all the time. If you would have told me all these things I'm going to be doing, I would have told you you're crazy, and I'm never going to do that. Okay. Because the one thing I never liked is medical stuff. Hospitals is not my thing. And it's the one field I would never work in, other than I'm all about health. I'm all about mindfulness, health, meditation, breath work, healthy foods, but not that. So anyway, it all worked out, and I'm so glad I was able to be there. The pandemic started to happen, and everything was on lockdown, and it's crazy to say it, but when I first got to Germany, I was like, holy shit, like I had so many plans, and now my mom is sick, and now I'm not going to be able to do anything. I have to take care of my mom. And then suddenly the whole world was on lockdown. I was like, wow, that is crazy. Now everybody feels the way I do. Like nobody can do anything. And then I ended up staying for 7 months, and I'm so grateful and happy that I was even able to do that, because I've chosen a life that didn't require me to come back home, right? I rented out my place, which is also a magical story. I was looking for someone to rent my place while I was gone for 3 months. And my friend in the park just said, I know someone who's looking, and he's about to get an apartment for like 3 times the price that you're paying. So I was like, oh my God, no way. So we got introduced and we clicked immediately. He came over, checked out my place, and that was it. And while I was in Germany, he was, he's a designer. So he was like, yes, I'm fine staying here longer too. I have nowhere to go, nothing to do. So everything worked out, guys. And then I came back eventually, stayed in New York for like a little bit to quarantine, and slowly made my way back to LA while I was visiting friends on the way, which I always love to do. And when I got back to LA, I decided that I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna pack and go. And that was also a major decision. And part of the decision was because I was in Michigan visiting a friend who said, I have a cabin here, and he's invited me forever, and I just could never go. So I stayed for the summer of that year. I stayed in Michigan. I told my friend in LA, if you want to stay longer in my place, you can. I'm going to take the next couple of months to just like travel and visit friends, stay with them for like a few weeks or a month. So I ended up doing that. And it was the best thing ever. I got to see some of my friends. And then, my friend Frank said, if you want to come back to Michigan, this cabin you can have it anytime you want. So grateful for that. Thank you, Frank. And so I went back to LA. I got back, I think in November. I spent, I came back from Germany in August, I think. Yeah. And then I was back in LA in November, like after traveling and visiting friends in Arizona, visiting friends in Oklahoma, everywhere. And not everywhere, but like a few spots. And LA was still shut down. And I was like, what am I doing here? And everybody kept telling me that don't get rid of your apartment. You're never going to find anything like that again. But I had this feeling before I even left. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to go to Germany for 3 months. I had this feeling of, is this it? And it freaked me out. I was like, if this is it, going to this park every day, meeting the same people in the park, which I love them so dearly, but I was like, this can't be it. This can't be it. I need to move on. And so, I spent the next few months in LA and went to all my favorite places one more time, my favorite hikes, and packed my car, sold everything, and mostly gave everything away that I couldn't fit in my car and I didn't need. The only thing that's really important to me is my studio and my dog, and a few other belongings, but I got rid of a lot of stuff, which I don't always highly recommend, but I was in that space where I was just like, I don't care, just doesn't fit, let it go. I lived the RV life for most of the year, and I'm in a little winter home right now, and I'm excited to share more stories with you, not just my own, but other people's. This is the place where I want you to get inspired. And know that no matter where you are in life, how old you are, how young you are, to always, always follow your intuition, follow your gut, and do the things that you dream of. Because nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible. I want to close the door. You can do whatever you want to do. Just remember that, because people have done it before. And life's too short to not have fun, to not explore, to not express yourself the way you want to. So if you want to do that art project, do that art project. If you want to travel more, just travel more. If you want to get rid of your place, just get rid of your place and use Airbnb in the meantime. There's always a solution to a problem that you might have. So I want you to know that, let that sink in. And I hope this story inspired you, and I will have many, many more. It's funny when I go through these things, I'm like, oh my God, I left so much out. But at the same time, it's like, how much time do we got, right? And I try to keep this no longer than an hour and a half. So I'm going to let this episode be what it is, the reintroduction to who I am and what my mission is with this podcast. I'm super excited to bring you a lot of amazing, incredible, interesting guests that have done things that seem impossible. And with that said, make sure that you check out my notes for you to keep for, reminding yourself about your possibilities. And follow me on all my socials, on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube. You're already here on YouTube. And you can always email me at jackvanb@gmail.com if you're interested in being a guest on my podcast, or if you have a great suggestion. And I have some awesome merch, ebooks that you can check out, and all my music at pinkstarmusic.com. Thanks for listening, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. My world is getting smaller. I've been on the run. Had to get away from all the toxic ones. I don't need your fake love, your plastic smile. I might be dead to you, but I'm still alive. I'm a self-made rock star rebel bitch, and I'm back from the dead. Can't knock me down, I'll make it. I've got a one-way ticket. The only place to go when your low is up. I can always stand, sometimes it's rugged. Can't stop me now, can't break me. No turning back, it's too late. I'll be the last one standing. I'll get my happy ending. Shout out to the real and steady by my side. Got me through my darkest moments, mental suicide.